Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we continue our conversations from some of the Kansas agriculture meetings. Today, we visit with Phillip Weltmer from Smith Center. He is the new president of the Kansas Livestock Association. We'll also have features from Kansas Corn, Kansas Wheat, and the Kansas Farm Bureau, along with our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com.
In agriculture news, despite a drop in key operating costs, Rabobank said contracted margins in 2023 will continue into the new year. Soybean farmers likely to achieve good margins in the 24 season, and corn farmers will feel their margins pressured by ample supply. They say wheat margins unlikely to be better margins despite the declining costs, and trends are indicating that the markets are at a pivotal point. Rabobank says uncertainty rises from factors like record Brazilian crops and more adequate crops in the U.S. and Europe. Expectations also of another record crop in Brazil for 2024. Global domestic demand for key crops declined, which points to building stocks and lower prices. Weather challenges and geopolitical instability coupled with economic uncertainty prompt consideration of risk premium in the market possible. Rabobank says corn exhibits the least upside potential, but wheat presents the highest upside potential. Soybeans likely fall somewhere in between. They say volatility is likely in 2024. Now, lingering high prices expected to take a bigger toll on the economy in the coming year. CoBank says that. And then the biggest problem for farm margins heading into 2024 is the elevated cost of production. While fertilizer prices have fallen, other production costs remain high, but ag commodities will benefit from more upside price risk than down in 2024, they say. Global grain and oilseed stock inventories are tight by historic measures, and the Northern Hemisphere will likely have a strong El Nino weather pattern during the growing season. For the first time since 2015, they say the dollar will likely continue its recent decline, and global demand should return to a long-term growth trend. Also, the renewable diesel boom and the smaller U.S. soybean harvest in 2023 will drive an expansion of soybean acres next year. Profitability for the livestock sector could also modestly improve in 2024 as lower feed costs and domestic demand offset some weak global exports. And Ron Sieber, serving as CEO of Kansas Agribusiness Retailers, Kansas Grain and Feed Association, and Renew Kansas Biofuels Association, has been elected chairman of the Agribusiness Council of Kansas City at their group's annual meeting earlier this month. Christy Larson, Strategic Relations Manager for the DeBruce Foundation, was selected as vice chair. Sieber assumed his current position with the three associations back in 2017 after working for the group since July of 2008. He's an expert in state and federal legislative affairs, also worked for Senator Bob Dole in policy and political capacities. He spent his entire career in that regulatory arena. And Larson is the Strategic Relations Manager of the DeBruce Foundation. Her focus is on developing strategic and innovative partnerships with stakeholders across the nation. Prior to this role, she dedicated a professional career to the advancements of agriculture education through work in a variety of industry segments and organizations like the American Royal Association, National Pork Board, and Dairy Farmers of America. We'll have more coming up. Stay with us on this Kansas Ag Report.
The Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum, growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com.
Well, we're joined now by Phillip Weltmer from Smith Center, who is the new president of the Kansas Livestock Association. In fact, he's my neighbor. Pretty close, you know, in Kansas, if you're just a few miles away, you are. Phillip, first, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so let's get into all this. the membership of the Kansas Livestock Association very diverse. So you represent all facets of the industry. Let's learn a little bit more about you and your operation.
Okay. My operation is in north central Kansas in Smith County, where our ranch headquarters was started in 1955 by my grandfather when he came back from Korea. He kind of wanted to settle back down, and my great-grandfather had managed other ranches and moved around a lot, and he found 160 acres. He bought it, and we've expanded it from there, and so we're in the same location that Grandpa started. And so my wife and I returned home from after graduating K-State. I met her down there, and we joined the family operation with my dad and mom, as well as my aunt and uncle. And my grandfather was there. He passed away about 2 years ago, but he's very integral in our operation. We had a sale barn operation in Smith Center, Weltmer Livestock Auction Market, and then we had a feed business and feed yard, and we had finished hogs. And we did about everything, you know. So I kind of went towards the cattle side of the operation. I loved genetics and that side of it, and kind of took over the cow herd. Owning a sale barn, we just got calf outwards, bred cows. You know, there was no rhyme or reason to the cow herd, and so probably what I'm most proud about is our genetics and how we've developed it over the years. And in 2021, we were the BIF Commercial Producers of the Year, and really proud of the genetics base that we've built with our cow herd and production-wise. And then we have a farm operation that, when I was younger, it was wheat and milo, summer fallow. We're primarily corn and beans with a little bit of wheat as a cover crop, essentially, you know, to get us back into the spring crops. But that's kind of the evolution. And we have 3 kids: a senior in high school, a freshman, and then they're boys, and then our daughter is a 8th grader. So, and they all go to Smith Center High Schools.
You are a busy guy in more ways than one. Also, you do have a bit of a history in working in leadership roles in the livestock industry. I remember a few years ago where you went through the ranks of the Kansas Beef Council as well.
I did. I started with the Kansas Beef Council Board in 2006, and kind of through the sale barn operation. You know, that's our main collection point across the state, essentially, other than through the the packer side of it. But so I understood and had a knowledge of it, but until I got there and got a full understanding of, you know, what we are doing with those dollars, I truly believe that we are funding projects that promote beef, and know who else is better than the producers, and it is producer-led. I mean, there is groups all over the country that, you know, meet together from all the Federation of State Beef Councils, and we collaborate. And, you know, the beef industry is different, and how it's managed and how everything happens from across the country. And that's probably the neatest thing I've learned through the Beef Council is, you know, how cattle are raised in California versus Florida to New York. It's diverse, but we are still raising beef. Okay. And it's the most important aspect of what we're doing on the Beef Council side of it. So that leadership brought me up through and learning, and now I've kind of slid over into some roles with the KLA side of it.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Phillip Weltmer from Smith Center, the incoming president now of the Kansas Livestock Association, is joining us. We're going to take a break and then kind of talk about where he sees KLA moving in his year as president. We'll do that in just a moment.
Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com. Our guest is Phillip Weltmer from Smith Center, the new president of the Kansas Livestock Association. It's a one-year deal, so you don't get too comfortable in that comfy chair, because you won't have time in that comfy chair. You'll be once again heading to D.C. a lot, around the state of Kansas. But let's talk about where you see this next year with the Kansas Livestock Association, based on what you learned at the convention and other things that you and the board are observing.
Yep. This fall, KLA is built on producer communication, producer-led communication. And we had roundtables across the state. When we intentionally sat there and listened to their concerns, took feedback, and ironically, the same thing or same issues came up at every roundtable. They affected that region of the state different, but they all come back to our number one was just labor. And how do we get that youth to move back to Western Kansas? We've done a wonderful job of convincing or encouraging our students and our young adults to get out there, get an education, and grow. But we have so much that they can bring back in knowledge. But how do we incentivize it? And most of them, their struggle with labor come back to housing. Having that housing, having the infrastructures in those rural communities to handle, whether it's IT for high-speed internet, just water. A lot of the cities were built in the 1950s. Adding water lines or having those resources available for them to come home. And so, how do we generate that? That's not directly KLA issues. It's the whole state's issues. Mm-hmm. But we're going to be there as a communication of how that's going to affect us, because as you know, agriculture drives every bit of the rural economy. And if we can't make a go of it and have the labor to operate the farms and ranches in our state, we can't help rural America's downtown businesses. We don't have the money to go to the restaurants, the grocery stores, everybody that's on Main Street. We can't help make sure that they can have a way to, have a life and grow and, just have a great place to raise children and families.
Well, agriculture, the driving force of the Kansas economy, and a big part of that is the cattle business, the beef business, whatever you want to call it. And there are challenges there. We've coming off a pretty good year in the beef business, but we also know the cow herd's going down, going to be small. You're going to have some challenges, because a lot of times they look to that head of the KLA to say, give us some direction.
We've ran through some tough times, particularly drought, and that is one thing that, as president of KLA, I can't make that change, we can't get it over, but how do we move forward? How do we make sure that the oversight of whether regulations are not overbearing, that we can have that ability to come back, grow the operations? How do we bring those livestock back in the meantime? We keep liquidating cow herds. I think yesterday Randy Block talked about we are still the on-feed placement of heifers is at 40%. Historically, we run around 35%. The heifers are still going to town. We're not retaining. Our numbers are dropping. And it's based on the feed. There's a lot of people in eastern Kansas, they rely on pond water. Mm-hmm. It's not there. You get in western Kansas, I've got wells that are below the sensors. We can't even pump water, So we need that to regenerate our soils, rebuild it. We've had timely rains in areas. Western Kansas, you've never seen Garden City so green, and it's a blessing that they got those rains. But every one of them said, if we'd had one more month, it would have been really good, So we still rely on Mother Nature, but we can take care of building that market. But I think the cow-calf guy, I truly believe, is in the driver's seat for the next couple of years, and we've seen record prices. I know we've seen the market fall back here a little bit, but I think we're in a good situation, and I think it's going to be extended because of the amount of heifers that are not being retained right now. We're not in a building process, and I feel we have 2 or 3 more years here where the cow-calf is the driver. They're going to be in demand.
Okay.
So,
All right, Phillip. Well, good luck with this next year. It's going to fly by fast. We talk again, kind of recap of how the year went. You're probably going to say, well, where did it all go? But you also need a good calf crop as well. And again, congratulations for that and the family and what you've done to build as one of the great reputation producers there in north central Kansas. So we'll talk to you again.
thank you very much.
Thanks. Phillip Weltmer from Smith Center, the new president of the Kansas Livestock Association. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. Stay with us.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Well, let's compare the two. See, the one in the sunlight is deep and dark green. The one that didn't get any sunlight is pale yellowish and kind of wimpy. Now, there's a reason this plant is dark green and healthy. See, inside of every plant are thousands of cells. And inside of those cells is a thing called a chloroplast. And that chloroplast has stuff in it called chlorophyll. And chlorophyll, or the chloroplast, kind of works like a solar panel. You know, think about it. A solar panel absorbs sunlight and turns it into electrical energy. A plant absorbs sunlight and turns it into chemical energy for this plant. So, because this one is getting sunlight and the chlorophyll and chloroplasts are active, it's bright green. See, that light that is absorbed is all the light, all the colors of light except green. So it reflects the green color, makes a plant look green. This one, it's not getting any sunlight, so it's not reflecting any green color.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.
Kansas children are learning more about the wheat grown in their communities and loving eating more whole-grain rich foods, thanks to a federal grant that is enabling school districts and daycares across the state to purchase equipment and source locally produced flour. According to the requirements for USDA's National School Lunch Program and School Breakfast Program, which sets guidelines for the nation's feeding programs for K-12 students, 80% of weekly grains offered at lunch and breakfast must be considered whole grain rich. Under the Child and Adult Care Food Program, the USDA program that provides reimbursements for daycares and other qualifying programs, meals must include one whole grain item a day. In 2022, the Kansas Department of Education received a USDA Farm to School grant to support the planning, development, and implementation of farm to school programs. The department's Child Nutrition and Wellness Program, which works to help incorporate local foods in meals and snacks, divided the grant into sub-grants of $100,000 to 12 child nutrition program sponsors, which included school, childcare, and summer meal programs. The funding facilitated equipment purchases so these programs could utilize locally milled whole grain flour, as well as a whole new grain recipes and culinary training for food service staff on how to bake with whole grain flour. Barb Depew, RDLD Farm to Plate Project Director for the Kansas State Department of Education, said, We partnered with the Kansas Wheat Commission to improve access to local foods, specifically local flour, in Kansas child nutrition programs through comprehensive farm-to-school programming that includes local procurement and agricultural education efforts. Learn more about Kansas child nutrition programs at cnw.ksde.org or follow #FuelingKansasKids on social media.
Rich Feltz was raised in the Farm Bureau family. And if you spend any time at all with him or his wife of more than 50 years, Shirley, you'll realize they have servant hearts for others. His career of community service and involvement in Farm Bureau spans decades and includes serving on the Montgomery County Farm Bureau Board as a County 4-H leader, the Montgomery and Kansas State Extension Council, helping start their local volunteer fire department, and serving as chairman of SEK Grain. In 2001, he was elected to the Kansas Farm Bureau Board of Directors, and in 2011 was elected vice president. In 2014, he was selected president and retired from that position in 2022. As Kansas Farm Bureau's president, he served on the American Farm Bureau Federation Board of Directors, chaired the board of Farm Bureau Mutual Insurance Company and affiliated boards and committees, and was appointed to numerous task forces by governors and others on behalf of Kansas farmers and ranchers. Under his leadership, Kansas Farm Bureau Health Plans was created, providing affordable health care coverage for Kansans. More than $150,000 was raised and shared across the state to end hunger in Kansas communities. Support and expansion of mental health resources was created. Consumers were educated about sustainable agriculture, and innovation and entrepreneurship were improved in rural communities. He'll tell you he might have retired from Farm Bureau, but he's not retired from farming or serving his community. Congratulations, President Feltz, and thank you for your years of service to Kansas agriculture.
More farmers and ranchers than ever have chosen to be BQA certified.
The Kansas Beef Council helped distribute the checkoff-funded Beef Resource Guide for School Food Service throughout 2023. Originally developed by the Wisconsin Beef Council, this electronic resource guide highlights beef nutrition, versatility, practical tips, and much more. The guide was shared with more than 900 individuals through an e-blast sent to Kansas School Lunch Program representatives and various contacts in on-site food service positions. In addition, the September edition of the Kansas State Department of Education School Nutrition Programs Update included the resource guide and was distributed to their mailing list. School food service providers are a great way to help get beef into school lunch plans. Despite tightening budgets, the resource guide helps those making menu decisions know about economical cuts and proper thawing and preparation to ensure they get the best use out of their high-quality protein option. According to Kansas Beef Council Director of Nutrition, Abby Hadari, beef nutrition is highly important for adolescents. She explained that when kids miss out on high-quality proteins, their classroom performance can greatly diminish. Hadari said the Kansas Beef Council wants to help school food service providers assist kids in reaching their maximum potential in the classroom while still enjoying delicious meals. For more information on the Beef Checkoff, go to kansasbeef.org.
Imagine turning soybean oil, used cooking oils, and waste animal fats into fuel so amazing it drives U.S. jobs and our economy forward. Learn more about biodiesel at americasadvancedbiofuel.com.
Morning, this is Jake McCall with Pinion Ag. As we move into December and the year end, there is plenty to watch across the board trade. Starting with the grains, each market is taken on its own concerns as corn settles into a trading range with no real story to back it up. Exports have been consistently within estimates, with 1,289,000 tons being sold in the week ending November 30th, which is down from last week but double the same week from last year. Ethanol reports showed a big week for production with 7.532 million barrels. This is the biggest production week we've seen since before August, but that pace will need to continue in order to meet the USDA's targets as we handle a fairly large carryout going forward. Meanwhile, the soybean market seems intent on watching the South American crop, which is expected to once again set records. Beneficial rains have been coming to our peers in Brazil and Argentina as we come to the critical growth period in the Southern Hemisphere over the next 2 months, and that will weigh heavily on the minds of those contemplating our own export capacity and to what extent Brazil can capture the world market once that crop is harvested. Until then, our exporters have been hard at work selling another 1,517,000 tons last week, which is down from last week, but well over 693,000 tons last year. This week, on the front month January contract, we have been doing battle around the psychological $13 mark, which could prove to be an important pivot point for the weeks to come. We do continue to see flash sales to China and unknown destinations, but it is important to note that issues along the Mississippi River and the Panama Canal will provide complications to those wishing to ship cargoes to the Far East. At the Panama Canal, reduced water levels have severely hampered the traffic of Panamax shippers that can make it through the locks in a day, and grain shippers generally losing out in bidding wars to higher value shippers for the valuable spots in line. The wheat market has seen some sparks fly this week, with over 1 million metric tons of soft red wheat being sold to China in just 3 sales. This came along with some fun short covering that gave a solid rally off the lows in Chicago, Kansas City, and Minneapolis wheat markets. Whether that will continue is anyone's guess, but it was a breath of fresh air to a demoralized wheat market that has seemed to have a one-sided conversation between bulls and bears ever since wheat harvest concluded last summer. Cattle markets continue to be locked in a downward trend, with a pattern of steep moves down followed by a small recovery time and time again. In some months, we are now approaching contract lows, as this fall's move has erased many long-time gains. As many state, the old stair-step up and elevator down tendency of the market, producers are eager to see when we can carve out some sort of support for a low, but just like the high, it will be difficult to tell until after that happens. The crude market has seen a rapid fall-off since the end of November as the world debates economic strength, current stocks, and the ability of OPEC to control the price. The dollar, on the other hand, has seen some recent strength, though still holding well below October highs. If you have any questions on the markets or would like help with your own marketing program, feel free to give us a call at 888-452-8751, and we'll look forward to talking with you. My name is Jake McCall with Pinion Ag, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas season.
That's our program this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Be social with us online, kansasagreport.net, or our social media pages. We turn the page to a new year, back with new shows next week as we start 2024 on the Kansas Ag Report.
Next time you see a beautiful field of corn, reach out and thank the farmers who work tirelessly to raise corn for livestock feed, renewable fuels, and exports to feed a growing world population. The farmers on the Kansas Corn Commission work for Kansas Corn with grower-funded checkoff dollars that support foreign and domestic market development, research, promotion, and education to expand opportunities for Kansas farmers. To learn more, visit kscorn.com.